Hello, everyone. I'm Lila,
I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Lindsay.
and we are the Pavelwell team, and we wanted to thank you all so much for joining us for our second workshop. We're overjoyed that our last workshop resonated in you enough for you to be here with us today. So, for those of you who didn't know or haven't caught the first workshop yet, you can find it on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. So during the second workshop, we'll be working toward loving without fear. And this workshop will be a little different, but in a good way, of course. This time around, we're giving our viewers the opportunity to ask us questions and share with us their own experiences and feelings towards the last workshop. Um, it could be some of your answers to the questions in the workbook, any questions you might have for us, or just anything you wanted to share. So to do this, you can look to the right-hand side of the live broadcast, and there will be a little rectangular um, box, and it'll say chat, and you can just type your comments in there, and towards the end of the workshop, we'll address them. We also have two special guests joining us for this workshop tonight, and they're Courtney Alston and LaShawn Harris, and we just wanted to say thank you so much to these two ladies as well. Lindsay, I think you're muted. Sorry.
I thought I clicked it. So technologically savvy. So tonight we're going to be talking about what it means to love fearlessly. And when we say love fearlessly, we mean not only loving other people, but really loving yourself without judgment and without any regret. So everything for me really fell into place when I truly began to figure out what it meant to love myself. Acceptance of self and the idea of being alone, but never really being alone due to my own personal beliefs and my faith in God was one of the first steps that really helped ready me for the spiritual partnership that I'm in with the person that I'm in a relationship with now. Realizing my wholeness has really allowed for everything in my life, my friendships, my family relationships, and any relationship really that I've taken part in to become more of an enhancement. So it allows me to look at my relationship with myself as full and filled with love, with no empty spaces, not feeling empty at all, and allowed me to become whole and not feel like I needed a relationship to fulfill me because I already was. I was already full. So this helped me begin to determine what I wanted and who I wanted to attract and spend time with without any apologies, not feeling guilty about the decisions that I was making for myself to take care of myself. I also learned this definitely while in the dating world and with intimate relationships. I went from being a serial dater to being by myself in a span of a couple of years, which also helped really wake me up to this. And I definitely relearned a lot of these things while working on Pavelwell because of the dynamic with working with my family and having the relationships that were enhancements meant that I had access to the emotional and spiritual support that would not only enhance me, that would enhance me, not feel, like I said, empty spaces, because I'd already accepted the love for myself. And this was really important for me, specifically when it came to making decisions, because everyone knows what it's like to kind of work in a group and have that group dynamic. And I had to be sure of myself and not come from a place of fear when it meant we had to make decisions for our business, and really just be at peace and be sure of what I was doing personally with, in reference to how I acted or reacted to certain situations in the group and the direction that we were headed in as a team. So For me, acceptance really was the key because I'm a low-key, maybe high-key a perfectionist. So acceptance was really key. And it goes both ways. It does give way to peace, really and truly, because it's a form of just kind of gracefully surrendering and just realizing that things are the way that they are. So I learned to accept any person or situation where they were, and I started by doing this basically with myself. So I know it's kind of hard sometimes to kind of think about, well, like, how can I really love and what is love? Like, that's like such an existential question sometimes. It's like where you see so much violence and anger and judgment and hate. Like, how can I love? How can we love? And to me, loving really means becoming vulnerable. And there's like this natural instinct that we have where we don't want to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, right? We don't want to become vulnerable because we don't want to be hurt. We don't want to open ourselves up to getting hurt or having someone take advantage of us. And I really had to learn that because I was whole, I wasn't going to be vulnerable in a way that people were going to be allowed to take advantage of me. I was doing this on my own terms. So I really had to take tiny baby steps towards this honest vulnerability, really with myself and not having any expectations on myself or for other people. And sometimes that word expectation is like, oh, well, it was really an awakening opportunity for me to kind of think about what it meant to not have any expectations. So those tiny baby steps towards honest vulnerability really allowed me to release that fear and made the way for loving myself. So what does loving myself look like, and what can it look like for you? Number one, I am somebody who is always there. I'm always on for the most part, especially with my friends, especially with my family. But I had to not be afraid to take time for myself because like I said, I'm an overachiever. I'm in the PhD program at UF right now, and I'm focusing on this business, and that's a full-time job. And I had to be afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to watch some TV right now just because I feel like it, or I'm going to write in my journal for myself because I feel like it, or I'm going to go and get a pedicure because I feel like it, or I'm going to, I took time for myself. And I wasn't afraid to do that. I didn't feel guilty about it. That was something that I mindfully started to do. And it might not have been an everyday thing for me, but really when I felt myself getting stressed, that was one of those ways to remind myself, like, hey, you matter. So letting go of all kinds of judgments, which is number two really for me, also allowed for me to let go of judging other people. So once I stopped looking in the mirror and saying, oh, you know what, this doesn't look right, or, oh my gosh, you could have said that a little bit differently, or why are you even going to say that? Once I stopped nitpicking at myself and kind of evaluating every little thing that I did, it really allowed me to let go of judging other people and expecting unrealistically things from other people. You know what I mean? That's really what I say when I say loving without expectation. So, there's just some things that we won't have to do from one moment to the next. And there's no need to force myself into feeling like I had to be anything other than myself, no matter what. And one of those things had to really do with accepting, which is number three, accepting myself for who I am from one moment to the next. And that's look-wise. Maybe I want to cut all my hair off one day. Maybe I want to, lock it. It can show in expressing myself, but it also has to do with the way that I move day to day. So, and one of those things was while working on Pavelwell, I realized that I had to accept not only how I express myself in any moment, but also where I was and what I was doing or not doing from one moment to the next. If I was angry, I made myself aware of that anger and just accepted it. I did not judge myself for being angry in that moment. I let myself see what that was with kind of an objectivity in a way, and just observe myself and kind of work through, okay, well, I'm angry right now. I'm not going to judge myself for being angry. If I was afraid that we might not complete something in reference to Pavel well, I began to accept the fear with no judgment or any analysis. And really that helped me be in a loving space when other people came to me and expressed themselves, and might maybe express the same types of fears or doubts, and it helped me really work through that. So that leads me to number 4. I learned to say no. That's a big one, but I also learned that there's times for me to go with the flow. So you have to know when to back out of something, but you also have to know that there's times where you can accept things for what they are. So saying no to some people can seem selfish, but there are times where that could be the best thing for you and for other people. Trust me. Taking time for yourself when you really feel it's necessary is not selfish. It's self-care. That's something that we're really, really big on. And I'm really big on. And I had to realize that I didn't have to do everything, that there were still ways for me to contribute to my family, to help myself and society in a healthy way without trying to fix everything and spreading myself too thin. So whether it was trying to please a significant other, family, friends, or living up to societal standards, I realized like I can say no, but I could also learn to just, like I said, accept things for what they are and kind of go with the flow. And I know that we've all been there. Another thing that I really did was stop comparing myself to other people. And that allowed me, like I said, to once again let go of that judgment of myself and of other people, and really accepting myself for who I am. Like, I'm not going to look at the next person and say, oh my gosh, well, she has this, or she's so much smarter than me. I am where I am, and that's okay. And you can tell yourself that. Love yourself for who you are in this moment, and stop comparing yourself to other people, because it's really one of those things that kind of can leave you empty, because there's no satisfaction in comparing yourself to other people. So these are the ways that I've learned to kind of let go and begin to love myself wholly and truly. So I hope that helped.
Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing that with us. So I just want to start by saying, while building up Pavelwell and creating these workshops for everyone to see, I've found that loving without fear is a really big part of living without fear. And this is simply because you have to transform your negative feelings towards someone or something into positive ones. And ultimately, this positive energy turns into love. So I would say the first step to loving without fear would be loving yourself, as Lindsay was just talking about, over everything. And the journey to loving myself was a long one, and I'm still on that journey today. I'm only 19, but it has been kind of difficult over the years. But as I get older, honestly, every day it seems like it's becoming easier and easier to love myself. So just a little background. When I was younger, I had some features that I personally was self-conscious of. I had the buck teeth, the thick eyebrows. I was really, really skinny, to the point where people would tease me about having an eating disorder or not eating enough. And as far as I knew, I was pretty confident in myself, but being reminded of these features literally almost every day of my elementary school, my middle school, and sometimes my high school life, that can really get to your self-esteem. So even though these were what seemed like harmless insults, it was honestly easier for them to become something bigger than that. But thankfully, I never let it get to this point. It was much easier to say, okay, I'm just going to accept this person as they are, even though they've hurt me. And it's fine. I love you anyway. I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm not going to criticize or hold anything against you, because you never know what someone else is going through. So it's much easier to just love instead of hold something against someone. So several times there might be situations where you receive judgment from even your closest family members or your friends or your significant others. And even though it might hurt you at first, the fact that you love these people that try to hurt you will make you feel better about yourself. So the same people that may have brought you down are stepping stones to your growth, and they're lessons on how not to treat other people. So the second step to loving myself fearlessly um, is loving others unconditionally. So saying that you love someone is very easy to do for some and very difficult to do for other people. And I've come to realize that for some people, you set a very special place for them in your heart, and you'll do anything to protect them, to keep them away from harm. And you can either be in a relationship with this person or they might be your family member. But love means something really special to you. And to others, love is just as deep in meaning, but it's not just exclusive to family members or significant others or close friends. Um, and to me, this is what it means to love fearlessly. It's loving people regardless of their feelings towards you, regardless of their actions towards you, their opinions about you, and even loving those you don't know can only lead to good. So for me personally, I've never been the one to, throw the term love around too crazily, but at the same time, it doesn't take a long period of time for me to warm up to someone. So, for example, it's just as easy for me to say I love you to one of my closest friends that I've known since birth as it is for me to say I love you to someone that I've made a connection with over a short period of time. Um, and sometimes this can be a good thing, and other times it can be a bad thing. But I've learned to look at it as solely a good thing. And it's not until recently that I've discovered that loving other people is really the only solution to truly living without fear. And it might sound challenging and overwhelming at first, but it will take a really big weight off your shoulders in the end. And of course, it's more difficult in some situations to just say I love you if you're not really feeling it in that moment. You might be in an argument with someone and you're not really feeling them, but it's easier to just spread the love so that you can get that love back in the end. So this is what I'm learning every day, and hopefully you guys can take from that.
Alrighty, thank you, Lila. Those are some pretty big lessons. Um, well, for me, loving without fear or just loving me is something that I have to consciously do every day. It's a choice that I have to make, whether they're major choices or big choices. It's from giving myself time in the morning to get ready, and so I'm not rushing, and so I'm not all frazzled when I get to work. Making healthy eating choices so that my body is fueled for the day. I'm not irritable or I don't have, um, issues with my health. It's so it's things, it's small things like that. But if you would have asked me 5 years ago, do you love yourself? I would have said, of course, I love myself. I love the way I look. I love my hair. I love my smile. But in all actuality, I was just referring to one dimension of myself, and that was my outward appearance. I didn't really know what loving yourself meant. So over the past 2 years, experiences with my partner Donnell and being in graduate school and with my family and my friends, that those experiences really helped me to realize that loving myself is something more than just loving the way I look. My journey of living without fear and learning to love are very much interconnected. If you tuned in last week, you would know that my fear was people not valuing my opinion. I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that my opinion was good enough. So after that harsh realization, I slowly began to experience what it was like for the shift after the shift happened. I began to share my opinions. I began to share my thoughts with my colleagues and my family members. My friends definitely got enough of my opinion. If you know me, you know that I'm very opinionated with my friends, and when it comes to them, because I love them so much. But after the shift happened, I realized that I was smart. I was just as good as everyone else. And if I didn't think that I was good enough to share my opinion or good enough to be a therapist, then no one else would either. Um, so, like I said, after my mindset shifted, I began to see like little shifts in my relationships with my mom and with my partner and with my friends. I began to see the connections. To elaborate on experiences with Donnell, he is the selfless one in the relationship, and we all know what that means. He is the one that gives more. He's teaching me to give. He will give his last dime to anybody, and it will just be nothing to him. It's like, oh, that's all right. You don't. If you give somebody money, that's you're giving it to them. It's not expecting them to pay you back. And the way he gives really taught me that loving isn't, it's not giving to receive. You're not giving something to get something back. You're giving with no strings attached. For a long time, I knew what that meant, but I was hitting a brick wall with experiencing that and really understanding that. I didn't know how to just do for him or do for other people without expecting something back. Whether it was giving gifts or doing household chores, I expected equal share in giving and equal share in receiving. So on one particular day, we were having a little mini argument about me doing the dishes and household chores, and of course it was about him not doing it enough. But he said something that really resonated with me, and it actually stopped me in my tracks. He said, well, he asked me, why can't you just do things because you genuinely want to do them for me or for us, and because you love me or you love our relationship? And I was just like, whoa. I thought that's what I was doing. Like, oh my goodness, whoa. So I had to take a minute, and I was speechless. I took a walk, took my dog Benji out for a walk, and I got some fresh air, and I was able to really think about the question. Um, and I was walking, I realized that I couldn't love him like he wanted me to love him, or love the relationship like he wanted me to love the relationship, which was unconditionally, because I didn't love myself like that. I didn't give to myself. I didn't do things for myself because I loved myself. I just didn't. And you hear the saying is how are you gonna let somebody else love you if you don't love yourself? That really, like, it was like an aha moment at that point. But that simple awareness shifted my whole perspective on living and loving. So now when I wake up in the morning, instead of just looking at my face and telling myself I love you and I love how you look, I really try to make the small choices, to wake up on time, to eat healthy, to meditate, to indulge in silence, to indulge in sweet treats, or listening to music. And I really just give myself time, and I found that it makes a difference in my day-to-day living, and it makes a difference with loving myself and loving him a lot deeper. So yes, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much, Alyssa. That was so many beautiful words and so much insight. And I hope you guys are ready for some more, because now we have our special guest. Our first special guest is Courtney, the happy researcher. She is a multimedia journalist, an educator, an executive who values lifelong learning, motivational leadership, and really inspiring the next generation of aspiring journalists. And currently, she is a doctoral student and graduate teaching assistant at the University of Florida with the College of Journalism and Communications. And her research focuses on the science of happiness, work satisfaction, and entrepreneurship. Before the Academy, Courtney was the Director of News and Public Affairs for WEAA-FM, the leading public radio station for national public radio news and information in the Baltimore market. And she also sits right now on the advisory board for Good News Baltimore, an organization promoting positive images for the city of Baltimore. Welcome, Courtney. We're so happy to have you.
Guys, I'm so happy to be here. First off, your stories are all inspiring. I was writing notes as you were talking because I was really just so inspired by your words and also your courage that you share your personal journey. And I got to tell you something, because I'm probably the oldest person on this panel. Being that I'm 41 years old. I'm like so in awe and proud of you, because I'm thinking to myself, when I was your age, I don't even know if I was that insightful as you guys are. I feel like now at 41, I'm kind of giving myself the permission to kind of, dive in a little deeper and to get to know myself. And I will tell you that for me, it all started, I guess I will tell you in terms of my story, as Lindsay said, I worked as a news director for WEAA-FM in Baltimore, actually one of the 4th leading public radio stations in the country targeting minorities. And it was a wonderful opportunity. And before then, I was working as a television reporter for about 17 years. I've experienced in the industry in various markets from Houston, Philadelphia. And I started off as a radio personality, so I love to talk a lot because of broadcasting. And it's interesting, my area of research is science of happiness, meaningful work, entrepreneurship, work satisfaction, as Lindsay said. But, the journey kind of started through kind of the phases that I went through in life. And it's interesting because some people say, oh my gosh, she's so happy. Her life is perfect. No. I choose to be happy. People would look at me and wouldn't realize that at 25 years old, although I was engaged at 19, met the love of my life in college at Delaware State University, asked me to marry him literally our first year of dating, got married at 25, but became a widow at 25 and lost him, lost the love of my life, and made news all over Philadelphia. And while I was working as a television reporter in the market, and not only was I going through that, I was also going through the fact that my mother was diagnosed with cancer 3 weeks before our wedding. Then, I went through that journey of trying to live my life without the love of my life for a couple of years, and actually learning how to date, which I didn't really do it that well because the first guy I dated, I married. So clearly, I was still kind of learning. And at 35, got married after a long, courtship of dating with this individual I met at a television station who's now my ex-husband. So at 36, I became divorced. So, here I am, a widow, a divorcee, and here I am, I study happiness. And I smile a lot, and I'm pretty positive, and I have, a mother that's dealing with a very rare cancer, and people often wonder, well, how does she do that? And then some people are surprised because they assume that everything is perfect. Happiness is not about things being perfect. And the interesting part is that in order to have like a true love of self and happiness, to me, you kind of have to go through the dark periods, because it allows the positive periods to have more weight, allows the positive periods to have more meaning, and so at 25 years old, I changed. I was a different person. I was a different type of journalist. I remember the first day I was back on the job as a television reporter, my news director, although my girlfriends who were my reporters at the station at the time were very upset with my news director because one of my first stories was a funeral. And the reason why he assigned me that story, because he felt that I was going to cover it differently, and he was right. It shifted the way I saw things, but it also made me appreciate the people in my life, and it taught me not to take anything for granted. The day my husband died, I was too busy thinking about launching a brand new television station, my career, even though my mother was going through her first chemo treatment, and I was thinking about French fries too. And I thought to myself, okay, it was a normal day, but it didn't end that way. It ended with me finding out that he passed. It ended with me thinking about, my gosh, my mother had a chemo treatment that day, and I was thinking about my job, but I wasn't thinking about giving her a call. And that changed. I probably call my parents way too much now. I call my friends a lot. I love texting. And I love sending positive messages to people. And some people think, oh my gosh, it's kind of a bit much. And, you know, that's okay. I don't supposed to be a good taste for everyone. But I believe in life that you got to do what you stand for. And one thing I do believe is making sure the people in my life know how important they are. But before I can do that, it goes back to everything that you guys said earlier. You have to love yourself fearlessly. And so these are some of the things that I do as a happiness scholar, as a divorcee, as a widow, you know, all those things that I've gone through, what I do to kind of help in terms of increasing my levels of happiness. And I think, actually, I really think the best thing in my life has been that I study it. So I literally live my research. I am one walking scientific journal article. And I'm okay with that because I love it, and I love sharing information. I guess it's the reporter in me. So all of us, I mean, who doesn't love Oprah? I mean, everyone loves Oprah. It's Oprah's world. We're all living in it, right? I love her. And one of the things Oprah talked about a lot on her show was the power of gratitude. Remember that? She talked about gratitude journals and journaling, which I think is amazing. And science supports it. Science supports the more that you continue to be grateful, the more that will increase your levels of happiness. So I decided to do something a little different. Instead of like, because my house, my parents' house that is, in Atlanta, it is full of journals from like high school all the way to like now, which, you know, I just told you I'm 41, so that's a lot. So, you know, I thought, okay, instead of like journaling like I used to do for years, I thought I was going to do something different. And this is what I did. Now I have a gratitude jar. And this is what I love about it. First off, what I love is that I can see it, you know. And I put these color papers like on my desk, and every day I pull out my favorite marker. Literally, I do everything based on my mood. You know, so I look at a marker and I go, okay, I feel like being pink today, you know, and then I'll write in pink. And then I'll write what I'm grateful for. And I'll write what I'm grateful for myself for, like what I am proud of what I've done today. And so I'll fill it with this jar. And so it allows me to see what is positive in my life, allows me to see what I've done well, and it just allows me to be appreciative. So I highly recommend getting yourself a gratitude jar opposed to a journal. Journals are great. You can carry them on the plane. But when you're home every day, I think this is like the best thing ever. So something else that was talked about a lot that I also do is I listen to music. I mean, who can't live without Beats by Dr. Dre? I mean, they're the best thing ever. I don't understand how someone can't live without those things. I love them. And what I do is that I love like creating my own like list of songs that empower me and kind of increase my levels of happiness. And you know what's interesting? What I also love doing is I love listening to high power songs. I love hip hop. I love hip hop and country. Some people go, how can you blend that together? For me, it works. It works. Drake and Kenny Chesney and Sam Hunt, they work to me. Taylor's work, you know, but it makes me happy, and you will find and you will incorporate what makes you happy. But the interesting part is that these high-power songs, science supports it in terms of helping to kind of, you know, increase your levels of happiness and overall well-being. So another thing I will tell you that I love doing that I kind of just stumbled on is at night I will listen to monks chanting. I love YouTube. Monks chanting positive energy, thoughts. And you know what's so interesting? It's soothing, it's relaxing, and it's peaceful. And it allows me to kind of take a look at my day, reflect, and then allows me to kind of just relax and to, you know, to go to sleep. And for me, that's not easy. Lindsay will tell you, with me being in a PhD program, and anybody who follows me on Facebook, and Instagram. I don't tweet about it, but because I don't know if I should be ashamed or not. I do not sleep well at all. Like, I will sleep 3 hours a day, and that's long. So, you know, when I sleep 6 hours, like, oh my God, I must be sick. But I'm learning that you have to, because that will help increase your, you know, happiness. It goes with happiness and subjective well-being hand in hand, is the power of sleeping. So that's another thing. So, I mean, you can't move without beats, right? Without moving. And so for me, dancing and has been amazing. I love these dance videos. I obviously am addicted to YouTube. So I love watching the dance videos, like, was it Wildebeest, Adams, or, you know, and all these different, you know, choreographers that are out there. What's so cool about it is that, first off, I enjoy seeing them have fun, which makes me, you know, elevates my levels of happiness. And then I think I try to tap into my inner dancer. And so I, you know, try to replicate some of the things that I see. And what I also love is that they have tutorials. And so, you know, the happiness kind of goes with dancing. You know, the whole happy feet thing is a thing. So it, you know, helps my mood. It actually, you know, helps elevate my endorphins. So it's really great. It kind of, to me, goes hand in hand with, like, working out. And I pulled out, like, one of my workout videos. Is that this woman is actually from Atlanta. Her name is Lisa Tanker Potts. She's amazing, and we follow each other on Facebook, and she's just been an amazing supporter. And something else that I've decided to do this year is a little different, is that I have a fellow Gator who has this great Facebook page called Fit Me, and now she's my partner. And so we're going to be working out together, and she's so positive. That's one thing I love. It's like, we're not just going to work out together. This is a person that's a very positive individual. So she and I are going to be, you know, getting myself, you know, fit again, and also, you know, elevating and lifting each other up. So it's like we're almost kind of helping one another. You know, I'm bringing my happiness philosophy to our workouts, and she's bringing her area as it relates to being a fitness guru, and that's kind of elevating really the both of us, because she's just phenomenal, and I would highly recommend you follow her on Facebook, Fit Me. Another thing, we talked about a little bit about affirmations. I love affirmations. I live for them, as you can tell. I like to wear them. And I think it's great to be able to kind of wear, you know, affirmations, because it allows you to kind of reminds you about, oh my God, yeah, I am happy, or wow, okay, I see happy. Maybe I should be happy. So that's what I love. I love about wearing it. I wear it even in my, you know, jewelry. I don't know if you guys even buy, like, inspirational. If you can see that bracelet says Inspire. This bracelet is like my inner diva. It says Fierce. You know, we all have to embrace all parts of ourselves, right? And this is a couple of bracelets I have, and this is my good luck charm, I call it. And out of everything that I probably wear, I'm a loyalist to this brand because my girlfriend created it. She's an entrepreneur, former television reporter, now luxury jewelry designer. She sells her line in Nordstrom's. Her name is Vivian Tamayo, and it's just amazing. I love looking at her bracelets. I mean, for me, it's kind of, you know, double. A friend has created it, so I'm very proud of her. But I love the pieces because they are so positive and inspiring. This one has a, you know, picture of Buddha on it, so I'll look down at it in my day, and it starts to lift me. And so I highly encourage you to have things that you wear, that you can see, that also kind of elevate your levels of happy, but also reminds you about loving yourself, as we talked about loving ourselves fearlessly, right? Another thing I'll tell you that I do is I'm like a child, and I'm okay with it. I have purchased, what is this called? Chalkboard wallpaper. That's what I'm saying, I'm a child. It's in my apartment. And I say that because I'm single with no children, and it's in my apartment. And what I love about it is, like, it allows me to write on my wall, really kind of embracing my inner child. I have my chalk right next to it. And what I have on my wall, it says happy thoughts. and they're my affirmations. And I will tell you that right now there's 4 of them. And I love the fact that there's not that many, because it allows me to kind of really focus on them and really kind of like understand and dive a little bit deeper into each one, opposed to just writing, some every day. For me, I love just being able to kind of live each and every one. So the first one on my wall is I am a warrior. And that's me always trying to, give myself permission of being human, but also understanding that, hey, I've done some things that you should be really proud of. To be a 25-year-old widow and, and still be able to think about how to continually give and to better yourself. That's, hey, you're a warrior. So I try to give myself credit on many levels in terms of loving myself. Another affirmation I have is I am beautiful. And it reminds me of not just my outer beauty. I think we don't talk about inner beauty enough. And it's funny because when I greet women, I always tell them how beautiful they are. And I think as women, we should do that much more. I say that because one of my students I ran into a few years ago, she told me, she goes, when we walked into the classroom, you always greeted us and said that we were beautiful. And she goes, because of that, I now tell my daughter she's beautiful. No one ever told me I was beautiful before. And I was like, wow. I thought to myself, if that's one gift that I can give someone, then I'm going to give it. And so I love telling women how they're gorgeous geniuses, because I think it's important that we not only kind of accept our inner and outer beauty, but value our intelligence and our wit and our charm. So that's kind of my little movement that I've created amongst myself. And sort of my third one happens to be, and it's funny, I feel like I have to look. Oh yeah, I do have to look. I'm sorry to cheat. My third one is I am focused on individuals who are focused on me. Drake has a quote. Told you, I like Drake. I can't help it. I like it. I like his songs. So one of the things that I'll start quoting from Drake and Aristotle. But I say that is that what I value about one of Drake's quotes, because there's like all these drizzy quotes that you'll find all over the internet, which I really love. You'll notice on my Instagram page if you follow me on The Happy Researcher. He goes, we adore the ones that ignore us and ignore the ones that adore us. And so I thought to myself, I need to just pay attention to the people who adore me. And, the people that see me, and spend my time with the people who, value what I'm doing and lift me and elevate me. Because I think sometimes in life when someone doesn't respond to us, we almost wonder, oh God, what's wrong with us? Let's make them like me. I gotta make them like me. No, maybe it's not. That's supposed to happen. Maybe it's okay. To me, it's about taking all that energy for the people who already see you, that already see the beauty in you, that know you're a warrior. And so that's my third affirmation, is reminding myself to, focus on the people that focus on me. So another one that I have, and I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet because I am a talker. As you can see, and I've really been enjoying this workshop with all of you, but one thing that Lindsay can tell you that I live by every day, and any one of my mentees, is one thing that elevates my levels of happiness. I mentor probably about more than 40 or 50 different people from around the world, and I love it. I love seeing them conquer their dreams. I love being a part of that. And it helps increase my levels of happiness, but I just enjoy being able to see them live their dreams. And so you see that in my facial expression. One of my mentees actually print screened one of our Skype sessions last week, and you see me smiling all the time. So I would encourage people to smile. I have this hashtag that I use a lot, and it's called Smile Big. And so I believe in it. I believe it's important for us to kind of smile and to, to show our light, so to speak. And, I don't make any, I don't make any excuses about it. I carry my selfie stick, and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of it because of the fact that, I love when I post a selfie on Facebook or across any of my, especially on Facebook, and then I challenge my friends. And so next thing I know, I'm getting all these selfies from friends, which is great. It really makes me smile. And then I'm seeing them with their dog, or I'm seeing them with their children, if they're wearing, things that I enjoy. And so it does something for me, but it also does something for them. And so it's like we're kind of spreading. I call us spreading happy together. So I highly encourage you. Some people go, oh, don't take selfies. Tell them Courtney said yes. Embrace your selfie. Believe in your selfie. Okay. Another thing that I love to do is my second to my last. So I'm about to wrap it up. Is tech support. I value creating, like I like to call them my happiness squad, and they're my, circle of friends. And I'm telling you, if someone needs, and it's funny, what I love about my happiness squad, it's diverse, meaning it's women and men. How great is that? That my male friends are like, you know what? Hey, I'm feeling a little down. I want to be able to share this with you. I've learned so much about men through my whole tech support thing, about just being able to share and that's kind of like, I guess, helping each other and building each other. So tech support is just, hey, yeah, if I'm feeling a little blue, or if I feel overwhelmed or stressed out, I'm going to text it to you, and then what does that person on the other end do? What we do is that we give a lifting or encouraging word, and we're there. And we let that person know they're being seen and that they're loved. And at the end of the day, when we talk about loving ourselves fearlessly, it starts with ourselves. And once you do that, you can begin to love the world. As Aristotle says, happiness depends upon ourselves. And so it starts at our core. So I love tech support. And so my last one is this. It's embracing your inner child. If you look behind me, this is my home office. I live in a little studio right now since I'm working on my PhD at University of Florida. Go Gators. I love my department. I love my school. But one thing I do is I love to embrace my inner child. It allows me to be more innovative. That's one thing I love about companies in California, Silicon Valley. I feel like they get it right a lot. You walk into spaces and they have games and they have, colorful rooms, and all of this is sparking creativity and innovation. I recreate that in my home. And so, I'll have things that I love. People know that I love all things Hello Kitty. Okay? I'm not ashamed. I love HK, It makes me, I've loved her for 40 years, and it keeps me in touch with my childhood, but it also does something to me, increases my levels of happiness. I also, if I might read a children's book or two. Some of these things, it sounds as rudimentary as it may sound, it's actually things that will kind of elevate us. It makes us feel nostalgic. Even if it's like watching an old show that you watched as a kid, and now you're watching it as an adult. And as Lindsay talked about earlier, like giving yourself the permission of being human, and just watching something, just knowing that you need that time for yourself to recharge and to reset. And for me, all of those things kind of helped in terms of me not only loving myself, but understanding the importance of creating a happiness strategy. I think when we talk about being in pursuit of happiness, we have to think about a couple of things: choosing it, and then also being intentional. And so I will end with this one thing is I love to get art paper and carry my markers, as you noticed, and I will map out some of the things that I have incorporated in my happiness strategy. And so I hope that some of the things that I shared with you, from my, wallpaper to my gratitude jar, will also inspire all of you to kind of incorporate that in your happiness strategy.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Your story is definitely very inspiring, and I feel like I need to go buy some chalkboard wallpaper now.
Best thing ever.
Yes, I've been thinking about actually doing a chalkboard wall, so I'm gonna go invest in some this week actually. And I definitely want to start a gratitude jar too. That's awesome. Of course, we have the journal, but I never even thought of the jar.
Absolutely. So you
That's
can see it.
yeah, you can see it, and
Guess what? It could be something you and your partner can do too. So you guys can both have jars or have one together, and to be able to talk about, what you're grateful for as individuals, and also what you're grateful for as your love as a couple.
yes, yeah, that is a great idea. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Next we have is LaShawn Harris. She is a dear friend of mine. She's a family therapist, originally from Long Island, New York, but she's currently living in Atlanta, Georgia. She received her master's degree in marriage and family therapy. We went to the same program from Mercer University. And she received her bachelor's from University of Maryland Eastern Shore in rehabilitation services. And she is not only a therapist, but she's a motivational speaker and youth advocate. She speaks to young girls and youth in the Maryland area, New York area, and now the Atlanta area. And she specializes in date violence, homelessness, and self-esteem. She also works with homeless youth in Covenant House in all 3 states. And also she mentors young girls for Girls Inc. So welcome, LaShawn.
Hi, everyone. Um, Thank you again, everyone. I was listening to your stories, and it's so touching. And I'm sitting here kind of with a plan. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm going to speak from my heart. What does loving yourself look like? I think it's important for me to share with the world that it's going to look different from all of us. We're all going to incorporate different things, and we may not all experience the same things, but I'm hoping that you can learn and take something back and you can utilize it. I'll start with a little bit of history. So, like Alyssa said, that I'm originally from Long Island, New York. At a very young age, I've experienced domestic violence. Date violence. I wasn't married. And for about 5 years, I was involved with an individual who was emotionally and physically abusive. And that did a toll on me being so young, growing up and not really living or enjoying life the way normal 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds live. Coming out of that, I had to learn how to accept myself, how to love myself. And at that time, I didn't know what it meant. But I did know, for me, the first step was getting away, separating myself from the world without isolating, but definitely separating myself, providing myself with a calm environment where I can reflect, I can think, and I can start growing. Because I think during that age frame, I definitely wasn't growing. I was stuck somewhere. So much was going on in my world that I was stuck. I also dealt with bullying all throughout high school. All throughout high school, and it was horrible. It was a horrible experience for me. It doesn't feel good walking into a school and not feeling safe, or knowing that people don't like you because they just don't like you. I would say I was a pretty quiet child. Even growing up, I was quiet, but I was always very active. Even though I was quiet, I was very active. Let it be sports, let it be orchestra, let it be drama club. That was my outlet. But anyway, these things affected me and affected how I viewed myself. I remember speaking to friends and telling them for a long time I didn't feel I was worthy of being loved. Why would I? And I shot out there, backtrack a little bit. After that relationship, and after everything I went through, and I got away, and I tried to find love in myself, I, of course, became involved in another relationship, and then another relationship. And there was a pattern. And now being a therapist and being able to reflect, I can see that pattern. And I asked myself, am I worthy of being loved? Who would love me? If my own father left, why would any man stay? Why would anyone love me? So I had to cleanse myself. Like I said, I separated myself from a lot. And there's a list of things that I start doing to start loving me again, building myself up. My wake-up call was when a young gentleman, he said to me, if you look at every guy the same, you're never going to find happiness. I was so closed off that I wasn't even open to ever loving or dating, or just completely closed off. My focus, I shifted my focus. My focus was school and work. And I focused so much on that so I didn't have to deal with everything else. And eventually you have to deal with it. Someone mentioned before being vulnerable. Yes, I had to be okay with being vulnerable. I realized that you cannot block out those bad emotions without blocking out the good. If I want to block out hurt, I'm going to block out all those good emotions that could come if I block out people in fear of being hurt again, or being disappointed, or being let down. So my first step was being vulnerable. Finding individuals that I trust, and I shared to, felt okay with sharing my story and my insecurities. And that's the biggest one. For a long time, I was scared with sharing my insecurities. Everything that I was scared to share, I shared them, and found someone who was okay with accepting that, and friends that was okay with that. But that was definitely my wake-up call. And there's about 4 things that I felt helped me. The first thing I did was understanding. It's a mechanism, coping mechanism, rationalizing. So what I did, I would look at situations that I've been through, and I would try to better understand the situation, not only from my perspective, but from the other individual's perspective. How is this person capable of loving me if they never experienced love? If their mother left them for drugs, if their father was not involved in their life, how can I expect someone who doesn't know how to love me? How can I expect anything? So, that allowed me to accept the experience. And with accepting the experience, I was able to forgive those individuals that done me wrong, because they are a product of what they've been through, just like I'm a product of what I've been through. So understanding, accepting, and then forgiving. And after I was able to forgive not only them but myself, because I blame myself, of course. But then letting go. And then once I was able to let go, I was able to continue and I believe start living life for me. So some things that I do. I mentioned cleansing. What does my cleansing look like? Eating healthy. I am big on eating healthy. Water all day. I'm a big tea drinker. Herbal tea. I cannot wake up in the morning without playing my gospel music and drinking a cup of tea. Now this may not be a good one, but I do it anyway because it works for me. Time. It is a concept that I don't want to know, okay? I wake up in the morning, I know I have to be to work, but I'm not thinking about it. I know I may have an obligation at such and such time, but right now this is for me. A lot of times we wake up in the morning, we're running through our head a list of things we have to do. A list. We are not living in the present. We're not being just existing and enjoying ourselves. So I don't know time, okay? I wake up and I take my sweet time. I boil my water, I drink my tea. A lot of times I go out on my balcony, open up the door just to feel the fresh air. I'm big on nature. I feel really good when I'm outside. I feel really good when I feel fresh air. So that's how I start my mornings. In my gospel music, something inspirational, something that makes me feel good. And I like the upbeat. The good hard time gospel, that's always a motivate, that's always good. But I like the upbeat gospel music. So that's one thing I do. Another thing I do, I call it a prayer box. A lot of times I pray and I will write my prayer down. And then I close it up and I put it in my box. Then I pray. And after a few weeks, or sometimes when I'm just I actually went through it yesterday, I'll flip it open and I'll go through the prayers. And I start realizing how many of those things happen. And that just makes me feel good. My cleansing also looks like not dating for a while. And that's what works for me. I had to learn to date myself. Again, I had to feel like I was worthy of being loved. I had to feel like I was beautiful. I remember when I hated, I know Courtney mentioned it, but I used to hate when people told me I was beautiful, or when someone told me I was gorgeous. And then it was because it made me feel like an object, just the outside. And in my head, it was so much inside, and it was just a concept that I just did not want to accept. And it was probably for many other reasons too. But I had to be okay with someone saying, you're gorgeous. You are pretty. And it took a very long time for me to believe that. I remember when people were interested, I would say, I'm not his type. Why aren't you? My friends would say, LaShawn, why do you think he's not his type? He is trying. He is calling you, answer the phone. Like, I'm not his type. Most of the girls he like, they're just different. What's different, LaShawn? He likes like the Barbie type. Like, I'm just not that girl. Like, all of his past girls, I would start, I think Lindsay said it, start comparing yourself. I'm like, what's so interesting about me? So I had to shake off of that. I had to start accepting myself and loving myself, spending time with me, feeling okay with being by myself. And that was hard. But I remember every night I would say a prayer, and I would ask God to fill every void that I have, to fill every hole that I held. And I came to this place where I no longer felt lonely. And that was my biggest fear. That was my fear. My fear was being alone. And, I prayed that. I remember in tears saying that all the time. And just asking God, please, God, just fill every void. Fill every hole, everything I'm missing. Please just fill me up. Fill me up. That way I didn't seek anything in the outside world to fill those things for me. I had to spiritually gain it all from Him. And I got to this point in my life, I'm states away from my family, with no family in sight, no relationship, no friends initially here. I had to make friends. And at this point in time in my life when I should feel the loneliest, I can't speak now, loneliest, I didn't. I felt fine. I was happy. I was upbeat, and I did not feel alone. And I didn't long for anything. So those are some things that I've done. And to maintain where I'm at, because you have to maintain. After you build up, you have to maintain. You have to make sure you don't backtrack or nothing, comes and throw you off your path. So to maintain, I exercise, I listen to music. I have weekly, it's cleansing days, and that's cleansing from everything. I turn off all my electronics. I just lay out in my bed. I may get up and cook, but I just spend time for me. And people will be calling me. I have so many messages. Don't even care. I just separate myself from the world and spend time with me. I literally do that, and I promise you, and I want to encourage everyone to try to do that. having one day to cleanse your space, cleanse your aura. It's okay. Be by yourself. You deserve it. You worked all week. You was in school all week. Now spend an entire day, 24 hours to yourself. Yes, you may have some obligations. Maybe another bad thing to say. A lot of times I push them aside. I know I have to work tomorrow morning, and I know there's some emails that need to go out, but guess what? They will get it when I'm punched back in. I'm not going to be the one up at night doing it. Today is my day. And my days are usually Sundays. So pick a day out of the week that you dedicate to yourself. Lastly, my message, everyone's been repeating it. I want everyone to just know, listen to your heart, follow your heart. Your storm will end. Sometimes we go through some really, really, really dark things, and we wonder, how in the world am I going to make it out? Is it worth it? Why would I even try? It's worth it. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We hear that saying all the time, but I'm telling you, we say it because people have been through some things, and look, you're still here. No one lives the life you live. You live your life. And guess what? You got through that. You're here right now. Hopefully you're watching us. You're sitting, watching TV, listening to music. You made it. You made it through whatever that storm was. And if you wasn't strong enough to do so, you wouldn't be here right now. So thank you. Thank you for viewing, and thank you for having me, everyone.
Thank you, LaShawn. That was very inspiring. I can relate to the fellow tea drinker and just wanting to be fresh air, and so thank you. Thank you. I'm going to direct our attention to the comments that we have on YouTube from This Is Real Life. They said, love the idea of the gratitude jar. So thank you so much, Courtney, for that nugget that you shared with us. And Silas Pound Pavel, so thank you to our two commenters on our little Google Hangout chat. So now we're going to turn it over to Lila. So we have some other things that we want to add.
All right, so now we're just going to do a little workbook review, and just to let you guys know, if you've been following with our workbook, the Fearless Lovers Workbook. So in the exercises for last week's workshop, we experienced our fears head-on, and we realized that, believe it or not, fear often keeps us from loving ourselves and from loving other people, whether it's a fear of us feeling like we're not worthy or questioning why would this person love me. It's that fear that we've created in ourselves that keeps us from giving love and from receiving love. So over the next couple of weeks, in the exercises in the workbook, we'll begin to make those connections of how fear can hinder us, but how we can also learn how to let go of this fear and just love unconditionally and fearlessly, as we've been saying. So this week's exercises are just to help you incorporate, that labor of love into your daily life, and to really take what we've been talking about in the workshops and to implement that into your routines, and just to help improve your lifestyle and how you feel on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully everyone gained something from last week's exercises, and we really look forward to you sharing your comments with us on this week's exercises, and hopefully it's something that you enjoy.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us, and we really, really appreciated everyone who watched live. And as a reminder, if you didn't get to see the first one, we do have the first one available on our YouTube page as well. We want to give another special thank you to our guest speakers, Courtney and LaShawn, just the diverse stories and inspiration. It was extremely powerful tonight. And we want to remind our viewers that are watching live and that might be watching later, don't forget to tune in on September 13th for our final workshop that's going to kind of merge it all together, loving life fearlessly. So we're not only going to give you the opportunity again to chat live, but we want you all to be able to share your own stories. So if you feel moved to join us on the Google Hangout, we want to give you the opportunity to do that. Shoot us an email at pavelwell1, that's the number 1, pavelwell1 at gmail.com. You can comment on this YouTube video or leave a post on our Facebook wall if you're interested in sharing, and we will give you all the details necessary to join us. And as always, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pavelwell. Thank you again for watching, everybody. Have a good night.
You can follow Courtney at The Happy Researcher and LaShawn at LaShawnH_ on Instagram. Share your social media, you guys.
Yay! Thank you. This was so beautiful.